Hello, Raven fans, Oriole fans. Maybe some of you Oriole fans are on this one too, but this is for you, Raven fans, and all fans of NFL action, which is starting back up officially on Thursday night. We, as Raven fans, have the honor of being in the first game. Ravens and Chiefs on Thursday. We were going to be talking about that all week long on the channel. Of course, we're going to have a and post game before the game around 7 o'clock. And we'll be doing an instant reaction after the opener on Thursday against the Chiefs. So like and subscribe to all of our social media, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of our social media channels. Definitely like and subscribe to all of our platforms here as well. Genesis Notary Services live stream is tomorrow. Definitely those of you who live in the Shenandoah Valley area, you see it on the bottom of the screen now there, September 2nd, Labor Day. Definitely, if you have questions about my notary business or anything like that, this is definitely the opportunity to go ahead and get down and get interested into the business of the notary, our wedding officiant, our building inspection, or home inspection, all those things. We can go ahead, do that. Notary, what notaries actually do. So we're going to be with us about a half hour tomorrow, and we're going to be going over that. That's really for those of you in the Shenandoah Valley area that are going to go ahead with that as well. And we're going to have our regular podcast. We never miss. We never miss the regular podcast every Wednesday on Ravery Sports Podcast, YouTube channel, and a lot of those channels as well. Let's get it cracking. The NFL Preseason Predictions video. This is our third one as Ravery Sports. So we are thankful to be around here long enough to do 3 football seasons. We're going to start our 3rd football season. We started right in August of 2022. So now we're here in August 2024, starting our 3rd football season. We're very grateful for that. Definitely, we have more people watching on our Twitter page, which didn't they said we had more people on our Facebook, etc. So thank you. Thank all of you that have participated in this. We are very, very grateful for all of you. All right, preseason predictions. I find it this year much more difficult than the first 2. What's going on in the league is there is a little bit of a shift happening. So we've had teams that have been good for a long time. I think maybe there's a little bit of a diminish maybe going on with some of them, a little bit of a descension going on with the elite teams. Still good teams, but maybe slipping a bit, maybe having some issues a bit. And then you got a new group of teams that are coming up that are up. So there aren't as many teams that are truly in the horrible category, at least on paper, here at the start. There's reasons for so many teams to make the playoffs, not make the playoffs, whatever. So it was harder, I thought, this year to decipher good and the bad. There's a lot of meh. There's a lot of clumped up. Somebody else might pick teams that I don't have making the playoffs, etc. Somebody else might like teams that aren't in the playoffs or winning the division in some cases. So it's the has and the have-nots is really not going on right now as much as it's been in recent years. A lot of young quarterbacks drafted, etc. We'll see. So this is our predictions. Preseason, this is the way I see it shaking out here, Ravery Sports. Let's go ahead and check it out with our third one. The AFC East, we're going to go division by division. Go ahead and check out who wins Defensive Player of the Year, etc. We're going to go over all that, who's in the Super Bowl. The East might surprise some of you. I like the Jets. I think the Jets are really good. So much I hear talking about where Aaron Rodgers isn't the same player he was. We kind of don't know. It's been a while. Serious injury, and he's older. Here's the thing. The Jets would have made the playoffs last year had they had any quarterbacking. They, by far, had the worst quarterbacking in the league. So they had almost no offense. They had the run game they had to overcome. They didn't score hardly any points. The defense, I think, is top shelf. I think maybe the best in the AFC, and if not the best, maybe the best in the league. Hot Sauce Gardner, Quentin Williams, C.J. Mosley, etc. I think the run game is really good. Bryce Hall, they went out Garrett Williams on offense as well. They did fix the line problem. The guy gets the guy hurt. They went out and got our guy John Simpson, etc. So I think there's enough there. I do like their coach on defense, Robert Saleh, and I do think they will get into the playoffs. I think they're the best team in this division, not by much because it's a decent division. The first three are decent teams, but I like the Jets in the one spot. The Bills, I think there's slippage, kind of what I talked about. I think what a lot of people are doing is just saying, well, Josh Allen is there, so we'll just go ahead and pick the Bills. I'm not wrong with that. I got no big problem with that, I guess. But I think the Bills had a lot of loss. They had a big cap issue, and they lost a lot of players. They're outstanding safeties for so many years. Micah Hyde and Sarah aren't there. They had to get new safeties. They lost Stephon Diggs, which was, I thought, a big loss for them. They had to go in the draft, rebuild their whole receiving core, offensive line. Their run game, I think, is going to be decent. I think that's kind of going to be their answer. They're going to run the ball more. Dalton Kincaid, they're still hoping that he comes around. But that's I don't think they're better than New York. I think they're a little bit behind them. And I would say this, as much as some people don't like you criticizing Josh Allen kind of struggled a little bit in his career as a starter at the beginning. Now, he's been great since, obviously. But he throws a lot of picks, and his receiving core is new. So even when he had Stephon Diggs, et cetera, on his team, he threw a lot of picks. I think that's going to hurt him. I think the Jets defense, I think, is too strong. And if they can get a middle-of-the-road Aaron Rodgers, I think they're better than Buffalo. Dolphins are not bad to be third. I do like a lot of the things they've done. I do like the coach, Mike McDaniel. I think they're on the right track with him there. They committed to Tua. Some might argue with that. I think that was probably the right thing. They've kind of developed it around his skill set, which is exactly what you should do. They went ahead and re-upped their receivers, which is exactly what you should do. Him and Waddle are really good. I think offensively they're fine. Their defense, I don't like it a lot. They're kind of making it a little bit better. They're kind of getting Jalen Ramsey back. But I think that's my big concern with them, especially with two teams with really good defenses. And Tua kind of, I don't know how good he's going to be late in the season in the playoffs and things like that. He needs optimal conditions, et cetera, to go ahead and succeed. So I kind of like him third as well. I don't think they're above the Bills and the Jets. New England's clearly the fourth team. I think this is a total teardown rebuild, which is what they should do at this point. Bill Belichick's gone. Gerard Mayo's the head coach. They went ahead and got Matt Judon, get rid of Matt Judon. Drake May, they drafted him. He's not going to start yet. He's not ready to start. Jacoby Brissett is going to start at the beginning of the season for them. So this is a total rebuild, teardown. I think they could be going in the right direction. I think they kind of going forward like to have Derek Drake May develop as well. But, yeah, they're way behind in this division. Definitely the one team for sure probably not making the playoffs. The Ravens! I still like the Ravens in the division, although this is a really good division. Nothing would shock me in the North. The Ravens are still the best team. All right, I'm going to tell you why they won't win it first. The reasons they wouldn't win it is, hey, the offensive line is really a rebuild. Really issues there. Kind of like what I'm talking about with teams kind of coming down a bit. Offensive line is really rebuilt. I think the wide receiver group is kind of back to what they used to have, mediocre-ish, less than mediocre. They're kind of hoping Zay Flowers develop, which he should, which we all think he will. No reason to think that he wouldn't. But they'd like to get a better receiving, a 1,000-yard receiver, kind of like get a good receiver for the future. But they're kind of like back to where they were. But defensively, they're terrific. I mean, I don't think there's any question about it. Their 3-4 defense, their front three, Matabuke, Travis Jones, now getting the starting nod as a starter, and along with Michael Pierce, they're going to go ahead and start for them. So that's going to be big. Inside linebacker Roquan Smith is probably the best in the league, along with Kyle Hamilton. Their secondary might be the best in the entire NFL. So they're really good there. They definitely gonna and obviously Lamar Jackson, the league MVP, along with Derrick Henry. So there's a lot to like in Baltimore. Big concerns though in some areas. Big concerns in some areas. Cincinnati's really good. Cincinnati, I have them in second. The receiving core, I still think it's top shelf. I think I've seen a little bit less of them, obviously having the number one group in the league. Jamar Chase, it does look like he's going to show up. T. Higgins, also 2 contract issues there. Not really happy with things. They did lose Joe Mixon. Their offensive line is probably the best it's ever been, which is going to help a lot. They got to protect Joe Burrow. They got to keep Joe Burrow healthy. Offense, I think, is really good. I think the defense is much better than it used to be. I think the defense was really an issue. The back seven, they've gotten better throughout the year. They did go out and get Geno Stone. So I think defensively, they're right there. I think there's some slippage on offense, though. They'll be good, but I don't think they're what they were. But if they can be, I think they definitely are right there as well. Cleveland, I'm the only person in the world that doesn't seem to think. People talk about Deshaun Watson like he's Nathan Peterman or Zach Wilson or something. It's not that bad with him. He was just starting, I thought, to come around and look kind of like the Deshaun Watson we saw before the injury when he got hurt last year. So that's a thing. He's still way below Joe Burrow and Lamar, though. That's a problem. But I would say they don't have Nick Chubb either. Jerome Ford was really good. So those are big big problems. They tried to get Ayuk. They still have Amari Cooper there. I think their offensive line it's not great. I think it's okay, kind of like the same boat the Ravens are in. I can't put them higher than third because of that. I would say this: their defense is top shelf. Period. Garnett, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, all those guys. I mean, their defense is top shelf. There's no question about it. Defense is going to keep them in things. I think if they had been in a different division, they definitely could be higher because their defense is probably right there with the Jets, 49ers, et cetera, best defense in the league right there. Steelers, same. Their situation in quarterback is worse, I think. Russell, I'm not a fan anymore. He's definitely not the same player. I don't like Fields as much. I know a lot of Steelers fans seem to be wanting Justin Fields, but he wasn't great in camp either. That's a problem. As great as Mike Tomlin has been throughout his career, one of the greatest coaches of all time, the dean now of the league, in terms of the longest tenure with one team, with Belichick retired, with Belichick gone, this is something he's never done. He's never developed a QB. He hadn't done it. He hadn't had to. He had Roethlisberger. He inherited him while he had him, was there, played for Cowher. Now he's got to figure it out. Kenny Pickett didn't work. You brought in these 2 guys. We'll see. Offensively, I don't know. George Pickens is still there. The running backs, I'm not in love with. Najee Harris. I like Jalen Warren. I really like Jalen Warren as a back. I think that'll help him. Offensive line is still kind of young. I don't think they score enough points. Defensively, they probably got better. I mean, definitely you get Patrick Queen in there on defense. I definitely think they went ahead. They traded Deontay Johnson to get a corner on defense. So they're defensively, they'll be good. Again, I think in another division, I think they're higher. But in this one, I think it's a number 4. Houston Texans. This is one of the elite teams, I think, in the entire NFL. I think the sky's the limit as well. They're sensational. CJ Stroud was so impressive last year. The poise he showed. I thought in the draft that Stroud would be better than Young, but wow, I was wrong in the sense of how big of a gap it was. Stroud, I think, probably you could put him in the top 10 for sure. Some people would have him in the top 5 if you're projecting it. That's how good C.J. Stroud played last year. I thought he was really good. They go out and get Stephon Diggs. They already had a good receiving core, Tank Dell, etc. They had it there. They're going to got Joe Mixon and run the ball. I think their offensive line, not great, but decent. They have a good Laremy Tunsil on the offensive line is really good. Defensively, I think they're pretty good. They have a coach, DeMarco Ryans, that's a good defensive coach as well. So I think the Texans are the real deal. I definitely think they're one of the best teams in the AFC. The Jags were supposed to be what the Texans are, right? Last year, we were all talking about the Jags. The issue is Trevor Lawrence got to be more consistent. They look, gave him the contract. I mean, again, that's just kind of the way it goes. I mean, they gave him the contract. Trevor Lawrence is still pretty good. But let's not, I think some people, again, kind of like Deshaun, like people going off the rails with Lawrence. But I do think he's inconsistent. Still good numbers you're going to see, but sometimes, I mean, he's not fundamentally as sound as I had hoped. Kind of the same thing in Clemson. He'll throw a ball 80 yards on a rope to a wide receiver, and it looks great, and then he'll miss the flat. he'll miss Travis Etienne in this flat. So that's the problem with the Jags. I think they have a lot here as well. They didn't really do a ton in the offseason. I do like outside of Lawrence, Travis Etienne is there. I've always liked him. I think he's cat quick. I think the receiving group maybe not as good as it was last year. They did go ahead and lose Ridley. I think they're a 2 spot though. I think there's enough there as well. Defensively, Josh Allen on defense is a beast. Is excellent. I think the defense has been getting better and better. So they're probably in the 2 spot. Tennessee, it could be higher than this. This is interesting. The Titans, I'm going to pick them I'm going to put them at 3 only because Will Levis is so unproven as a starter. This is a real X. We don't know. We don't know how good Will Levis is. So I'm having a hard time putting him above Jacksonville. But otherwise, I wouldn't have a problem putting him above Jacksonville because they've done a lot in the offseason to get better. They did lose Derrick Henry, but I think Tajay Spears, is ready to go ahead and start full time for them as well. They did go out in the draft and beef up the line, which they like to do. So that was good move there as well. Getting Latham, etc. I think they did go ahead on defense. They went out and got Calvin Ridley in the offseason. I'm sorry, on offense. They got Calvin Ridley. They still had Deontay Hopkins. Defensively, they went and got Janarius Sneed. They just made the trade for Ernest Jones. I think they're definitely doing all the right stuff, but do they have a quarterback? And I'm not one way or the other on Will Levis. I don't know. It's a big X, but again, never know. I think otherwise, I think they are right there. Otherwise, I think they're right there. They're not that far away. The Colts. I'm gonna talk nice about the Colts. I'm not gonna rip apart Ballard and Irsay like I usually do, because I do think they do have a coach. Shane Steichen, I think, is a good young coach, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's why people like the Colts more than I like them, though. I'm not sure Richardson is ready to play. That's a bigger X to me. Richardson, we got no idea. I didn't love him in college as far as his passing percentage, and he didn't play at all last year, and I'm just not sure. Their team, they have some parts. You look at some of their players, you go, wow, all right. Quentin Nelson's there. Jonathan Taylor's there. Brenston Buckner's there. Jair Franklin's there. So there's some stuff there, but I think they're behind the team. I think they're parts, and I don't know what you're going to get from Anthony Richardson, if he's going to be any good or not. So I have them pulling up the rear in that division. No surprise, the Chefs, number 1 in the West. Can they three-peat? That's the question. Here's the thing. Their receiving core, I think, is actually better, what we're calling a weakness, than what people think it is. They did get our guy Marquise there. They went out and signed Juju Smith-Schuster, who played so well for them in the Super Bowl year. So I thought for sure Rashid Rice might get suspended, but he's not going to. But we know what else is there. Look, they got Pat Mahomes, you got Travis Kelce, you got the 2 Hall of Famers. I thought their interior line on offense is the best in the entire league from guard to guard. Thuney, Humphrey with the extension, except Trey Smith. I think that's terrific. They are starting a rookie at left tackle, so that's a thing. Kingsley Samaka, they're starting him. That's a thing. Got rid of Donovan Smith. They're hoping Jarrett Taylor can kind of turn around. That's probably one thing. But defensively, I think they're solid. I think Trent McDuffie, I think, is one of the best players and the best corners in the league. Chris Jones, we know how solid he is. Nick Bolton, I think, is really underrated. So, yeah, they're there. It's only a matter of can they actually go all the way into playoffs. They were not as good on offense during the regular season last year. So that did cost them. And I think they have to be better on offense during the regular season this year as well. Guys, Kelsey is getting older. That is a concern. He wasn't nearly the same player last year until he got to the playoffs. But other than that, that's a bit of a concern as well for them. I'm gonna put the Chargers in second. The Herbert injury kind of makes me nervous a bit. He's gonna be back apparently, but the Herbert injury kind of makes me nervous. I know this. They're going to be much better coach. This is the best coaching upgrade in the NFL when you got Jim Harbaugh there instead of Brandon Staley. So this is a massive coaching upgrade. And we know what they're going to do. They're going to run the football. They didn't get all these bottom guys like Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. In the draft, they went and got Joe Alt. They're gonna pound the football. That's what. There's no secret here. And that's exactly what Justin Herbert needs. Somebody, any quarterback, really, go ahead and help him run the football as well. Defensively, that's the issue. I don't know what you're going to get. Everybody healthy, it's a good defense. Because they do have the Bosa there, Khalil Mack, Derwin James. The problem is they can't keep him healthy, and they don't have a ton of depth. So that's a big if. But we will see about that. But I think they're second. I think having Harbaugh there gets them one or two more games. That'll put them in second. The Raiders. Raiders, I think, are in third. I don't know what they're getting at quarterback. Minshew, I think, is better than what people think he always is. For a guy that can't find a home, his teams are always kind of competitive for some reason. Because he doesn't look the part, not at all. But I think, is he good enough to probably get you 7 or 8 wins? Yeah, sure. He did win the starting job, from what I understand, over Aiden O'Connell. So, shout out to him as well. They're kind of like the Colts, though, in the sense they're kind of parts and not the sum of the total. They got Max Crosby, but they still have some issues on defense. They went out and they have some run game. They lost Josh Jacobs, but they still, too many holes, I think, for them to be higher than third above the Chargers. They do have some stability now at coach. I think Antonio Pierce, I think they didn't make the mistake again of not hiring the interim coach because that was probably the right thing, at least for this season, the right move. Sean Payton's Denver Broncos, I think, is fourth. I don't think they have enough players. I mean, I like Payton. I know some people are like Bo Nix. I don't dislike him. I think, but I think it's too big of a road to hoe in this division here. Because they don't have enough players. Again, Patrick Surtain on defense on the other side. I think offensive line, I think, is decent enough. On offense, is probably their strength. Sutton, I'm not in love with him. They got rid of Jerry Jeudy. I don't think there's enough bullets in the gun on each side. Knicks, I don't blame people for liking Knicks, though. I mean, Knicks, I think I will say this. This is more of what Sean Payton wants. Way more than Russell Wilson was. So you're not going to hear a lot of this foolishness coming out, kind of backing Nick, not backing Nick's public or whatever. He's not going to do that. This is definitely more Breeze-like. The offense is going to look more, but I still think it's a build in Denver. I think there's probably at least one season away. Tough in the East to figure out what the heck's going on. The Eagles are, to me, should be the easy choice, but the way they look down the stretch and what's going on with the coach and the quarterback makes you nervous. Look, they're spending money for sure. They went and signed Saquon Barkley, which I think is a good move. They went and re-signed both the receivers, Deontay Smith, A.J. Brown, which was smart. They have Jalen Hurts, I think, not quite as good last year, but a solid quarterback. I think the line is really good. So the pieces are there. So I don't know what they're arguing about. I don't know what the problem is, but I know that's a problem. Is defensive, they lost a step, I think, in my opinion. The secondary was really bad, but I think they kind of addressed it in the offseason, in the draft, etc. So I kind of do like the Eagles. I'll still put them in first. I still think this is a better team, but there's a lot of noise in Philly. It's not appealing to me to be elite like when you have that much noise. Dallas, I think, is pretty good as well. They've kind of lost some stuff. CeeDee Lamb extension happened, which was good. They're kind of shuffling the deck chairs on the offensive line, so I don't know how good the line is. I think they're probably in a decent category. Tyron Smith is finally gone. Dak Prescott is still there, so they're definitely going to have decent quarterbacking, at least in the regular season as well. Ezekiel Elliott running back just isn't going to work. That's not going to get it. I don't see how they're going to have much of a run game, and that's going to be a problem. They're not so good throwing the football where they can just do that. That's not going to get it. I understand why that was probably the best option they had, but wow, that's a big problem. Defensively, I think they should be better than they are. You got Micah Parsons, you got Tavon Diggs, you got Demarcus Lawrence still. But I don't know. They kind of seem like they've taken a little bit of a step back on defense as well. They lost a terrible game in the first round. How much heart do they have? McCarthy's clearly on the hot seat, so not a great vibe there in Dallas either. I think they're a little bit behind the Eagles. The Giants, no quarterback at all. Daniel Jones, I think this is probably one of the worst quarterback contracts in the history of the NFL. Jones is just, I don't get it. He's not a complete quarterback. I see Kyle Bowler when I see him. He has flashes of real talent, but I just enough to stay there. And but they're kind of paying him based on him just getting in the playoffs one time, and he's been terrible outside of that. Even that year they won, I mean, he wasn't great. I mean, he was better than before, but even that year he wasn't great. So they lost Saquon Barkley, which was not good in the offseason as well. I think offensively they're really going to struggle. They did get Malik Neighbors, which would help. I mean, which is good. I think they got a good wide receiver prospect for the future. But defensively, they're not that bad, though. Defensively, they're not that bad. Okirk on defense as well, Dexter Lawrence, etc. Defensively, they're not that bad. But they can't overcome this offense. This offense is terrible. I think that's one of the worst in the league as well. Commanders, I think no shame here, just to build. I think they're just starting to build. Jayden Daniels is going to start for them, which is fine. They have receivers and McLaren as well. They just got to build it, start over again. Hopefully they have a new owner there. Not enough talent though to go ahead and get past in this division. Too many good teams there in the Commanders. Charging on the North. The Lions, I think, are probably really the Lions. There's no probably to it. They are. I think they're the best team in the NFC. I think the Lions. I can't really find a flaw on their roster at all. I mean, unless you don't like Jared Goff. Goff, I think the knock on Goff is that he had offensive line. He doesn't do well with offensive line. This is the best offensive line in the NFL. May not even be close. So their offensive line is fantastic. They have two outstanding running backs. I think both of these guys would be starting on any team. I think the receiving core is as good as anybody. Amon St. Brown, etc. They're still waiting on Williams there. I think their offensive line is outstanding. I think their defense is only getting better. I think on the corners, I think struggled a bit last year, but that's the only weakness. They addressed that in the draft as well. I really like them. I think the Lions are really good. Some people don't like Campbell as coach. I like him. I think he's I think he's a bit old school, which is fine. I think, and his team is what he is. That's fine too. He's got guys that believe. So I think that's good. Love the Lions. Lions are terrific. The Packers, I think, are a good, solid playoff team. I think Jordan Love, I gotta admit, he turned it around way more than I expected last year. I didn't expect much. I tell you what, that impressed me that went in Dallas. That was impressive. Lots of poise. He got better. A lot of what we saw from him for years was just that dink dunk. He didn't do anything. he wouldn't throw it down last year, but he improved, got better down the field. Very impressed with him. Very impressed with Matt LaFleur. I think he's the best coach in the division as well. I think the receiving core is good. I actually like Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. So they're kind of young. So I think they're still maybe a year away before we're putting them in the Super Bowl, especially in the division. Defense, I think, is always really good. Rashawn Gary, a lot of those guys. I think they're So I think the Packers are a good, solid team in the playoffs. The Bears, I think, had it not been for the Packers, maybe in a different division, they would be right there. A lot of reasons to like the Bears. I think Caleb Williams, I think, is absolutely the real deal. I mean, I think it's only a matter of when he goes into the top 5 in as far as quarterbacks in the NFL. I think getting him some help is what you do. Getting Keenan Allen, keeping DJ Moore there, going out and getting a running back, Cole Kmet, the tight end. So offensively, I think they're fine. Defensively, I think they're bigger question, but I think the defense is getting there as well. I think they have some parts on defense to actually go ahead and get themselves better going forward. I think the Bears, I don't think they're that bad. It's tempting to put the Bears above the Packers. It is, but I don't think they're there yet. They are still starting a rookie, but the Bears are clearly in the right direction. Vikings have real problems. I think their defense, I thought last year, which was kind of what they've done so many years when they had Mike Zimmer as coach, was always kind of better than what you thought. It wasn't nearly as good last year. And I think offensively, you got real issues. They're going to be starting Sam Darnold. He could be the worst starter in the league. They drafted J.J. McCarthy, but they're not going to have him at all this year. So they really can't develop him as they hoped. They do have Justin Jefferson. I think that's the one thing, I mean, you can point to that they do have, but questionable in a lot of areas. I don't see them making the playoffs, doing anything this season. Vikings are 4. The West. You know what? This was closer than what I thought it was. I really, really tinkered putting the Rams ahead of the Niners, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave the Niners there. The Niners, this was pretty close. The two of the biggest reasons why I think, let me start here. Why I wouldn't take the Niners, because that's more obvious. Trent Williams is still not there. That's a problem. Their line was really exposed without him. And I don't know if they need to go ahead and work this out. I'm assuming it gets worked out at some point during the season, but that's going to be a problem. They did sign Ayuk, which was huge. So the dance is over with that. They went ahead and got him signed. So I think their offense, the skill people are still top shelf. Kittle, McCaffrey, etc. They're top shelf. So we know that the line wasn't nearly as good. I think they definitely could use Trent Williams, but it got a little bit more experience. So we're still waiting on that. So that's really good. I think so they have some things there that you like. The Rams are so close though. Stafford is still pretty good. Amen for that. they spent a lot of draft capital to get him, so they went ahead and kept him. So that's good. They did draft Blake Corum. I think that's going to matter as the season goes. I really like Blake Corum, and the offensive line I think is really good. They're going to run the ball similar. The problem with the Rams is they've struggled against San Fran. If you're not going to beat San Fran, if San Fran's going to keep beating you in the regular season, that's that. I can't put you ahead when they're really close. Defensively, they lost Aaron Donald. I think they weren't as good on defense last year anyway. I think they're still kind of building. They did trade away Ernest Jones. So yeah, there's some issues there on defense as well. So I'm not as sure about their defense as I am the Niners, but it's close. I think they're really right there. Seattle, I think they have a new coach. My man Mike McDonald, former Ravens defensive coordinator, is there. We don't know what we have with Geno. I think Geno. I'm rooting for Geno. I think the glass slipper might be a problem. Might be falling off a bit. Wasn't nearly as good at the end of last year. There's some issues. There are still places there. There are still some hope there in Seattle. They still have DK Metcalf. I think their offensive line is actually pretty good. Better than what a lot of people think it is. I think they should be able to run the football as well. I think defensively, we know they're with Mike McDonald there. They're going to be really good. So I think the defense doesn't concern me, but I just don't know if they're going to have enough points to beat the Rams and the 49ers consistently. That's going to be a problem. I think when they play really good defenses, they have a problem. I've noticed that with Geno. When they play good, if they're playing bad defenses or average, they kind of fall off in that situation. So we'll see what happens there. Cardinals, I don't think they're an embarrassing fourth place team. I mean, I definitely think they're in fourth. I have them in fourth. Somebody's got to finish in fourth. But I think a full season of Kyler Murray would help them a lot. I think it wouldn't shock me what happened. I think the defense is bad. That's the biggest thing with them. I don't think they have anything on defense that's really going to help them out. So I really think that's probably the biggest problem with Arizona. But I think they're going to score. I mean, they went out and got Harrison in the draft. I think the line is still pretty good. I think they're going to score, but I think their defense is not good. So that's not going to work. I think they'll finish in fourth. AFC playoffs. So Kansas City, Baltimore, Houston, Jets. I think Baltimore probably, is in second this year. I don't think they have the best record like they did last year. I kind of putting them in second. I think Houston is going to be right there. I have them behind Baltimore because I don't think they'll beat Baltimore and Kansas City in the regular season. I think they're going to lose those games. So I definitely think it'd be. I think they could. Well, I don't know for sure, but they could lose those games. I think they're third overall. I think the Jets are probably the fourth spot. I think they're probably the worst team that's going to win a division, but they should win their division. Buffalo, I think, is going to get in the playoffs. Number 5, I think they're going to have the best record of a non-division winner. So I definitely think they get in. The Bengals, I think, get in as well. I definitely think they finish behind Baltimore in the division, but they should get in, and Cleveland should get in. I like Cleveland. Kind of thinking maybe the Chargers, but I think Cleveland, that defense is going to keep them in every game. I don't know how much they're going to score, but I think Cleveland should be there in every game. NFC playoffs. I love Detroit. I think Detroit's probably the best team in the NFC. I think the Niners are right behind them in terms of record. It's pretty close in terms of those two. I think the Lions are just ascending, and I think the Niners. I mean, there's no other logical reason. It could be that the Niners might maintain, but I think that they're dipping not a lot, but just a hair behind Detroit. Detroit nearly got them in that NFC Championship game last year, so it'll be close. Eagles, I think, are going to win that division, and the Bucs. Did I skip that? I think I skipped it. Did we talk about this out? I think I skipped this out. All right, so let's talk this out. All right, so management appreciates your cooperation. The South, I thought I was forgetting something. The NFC South, Bucs winning the division. It's tempting to take. It's tempting to take the Falcons. I know a lot of people like the Falcons, so it's very tempting to take Atlanta. So I'm not going to take Atlanta. I'm going to take Tampa. Tampa simply because I think what they showed last year. Baker Mayfield is a solid starting NFL quarterback. Not a Pro Bowler, not a scrub. Right in the middle. And that's pretty good. I think that's kind of what you need to go ahead and win. The receiving core is still really good. Mike Evans and Godwin are outstanding. Their offense as a whole is going to be decent and solid. I think defensively, I think they're still pretty good. I think I like them better. I think they're probably as good on defense as any team in this division, but they should win the division. Atlanta, I know a lot of people are going to take Atlanta because they're kind of the sexy pick because they did a lot in the offseason. Cousins, I think, is kind of what he is. He's going to win them more games for sure because they had no quarterback in last year. But they're going to win them some more games. But I don't think they're going to get above second. I do think, though, they're in second, though. I think they're solidly in second. I think they're going to challenge for it. They should have a winning record. Getting Justin Simmons and Matt Judon, I think, was a big deal on defense. I think that's kind of where they had some holes on defense. So I think that's a big deal that helps them out a lot. But I still don't think that puts them above Tampa. The Saints, boy, I wish they would ever get out of cat jail, man, because they're kind of like on a slow deterioration down. Carr, I think they're kind of going to go as Carr goes. I'm no longer as convinced with Carr. He's kind of like, again, a lot of these quarterbacks, good, solid, mid-tier quarterbacks. And I think Carr is kind of maybe slipping down a bit there. Kamara is definitely not the same player. They got injuries on the offensive line as well. They do have Chris Olave. I mean, a young wide receiver, so that's good. I mean, I think that's good. On defense, got some age, so yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. Carolina, I think even might get ahead of New Orleans, but I'm going to leave them at fourth. I don't know what we have with Bryce Young. I think that's the thing. If Young can give them more than what they've been getting, because they have been adding teams. I don't think the Carolina, some of the moves they made, I'm not looking at them and saying, well, that's just lousy. But I think, I mean, they went out and they went out and got Deontay Johnson. They've done some things. So I think they're okay. But I still think they're in fourth. I don't think Young is going to jump up enough ahead of these other guys to go ahead and get that done. Now, back to our schedule program. Now that we went over that, Bucks are in fourth. I think Bucks are the probably the worst team in the division. A 9-8-ish type deal, 10-6 as well. Rams are really good. We went over the Rams. I think the Rams are fantastic as far as being one of the better teams in the NFL. They're a little bit behind. I think they'll have the best record. They're I think, Super Bowl contenders. I do think the Rams are there, but they won't win the division. The Packers, I think, are a good, solid playoff team. I kind of said that they're – I don't know if they win a division, but they're definitely going to get there. Dallas should sneak in. I don't know if they do much, but they should sneak in as 7. I think it's a pretty good 7 here. I think they're pretty much the 7 that's going to separate themselves in the NFL. Pat Mahomes, I think, wins the MVP. I think he's motivated. I think he's sick of hearing about Lamar. Micah Parsons, I think, is the most complete player on defense in the league. I think Caleb Williams is going to show everybody early how good he is, wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, D'Amico Ryans, with the turnaround job he's done with the Texans as well. Ravens and the Chiefs, AFC Championship game. I do think the Ravens' experience and mettle actually should factor in to winning the AFC Championship. I think they win the AFC over the Chiefs. I just don't like the odds of them winning 3 in a row. I don't. I think that's going to be very, 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 very hard to do, to win 3 straight. I like the same 2 teams in the NFC Championship game again. I think the Lions get them this year. The Lions, I think, are outstanding, and they go ahead and they have every shot to actually win the NFC Championship. I think they will. I think the 49ers are right there. I think they're getting the game at home. What I think the number 1 seed will matter. Ravens playing the Lions in the Super Bowl. I'm hoping the Ravens will win. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm not going to say make an official depiction there, but I am going to say hope the Ravens will win. Ravens are really good guys. I think like there's a lot of skies falling here, kind of like with the Orioles, but I think the Ravens still are one of the better teams in the NFL. I've looked at all these rosters and everything like that. Look, you have Derrick Henry here. You have Lamar Jackson, who just won an MVP. You got a young receiver in Flowers, the best tight end group in the league, best corners in the league. There's a lot to like. Issues, yes, but I think it's enough to get them there. I think the Lions are about as flawless as you can get, though, for a team. The only thing is if you don't believe that Goff can win a Super Bowl. That's the only thing, which I'm not sure that's true. I don't think he's already gotten to a Super Bowl, so I think he can get there and win it. We will see what happens with them. All right. Thank you very much for joining us for our NFL preview predictions video. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content. We will see you for our regular podcast this week. Enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy